Hello everyone, Happy New Year and welcome to 2019. This year's Formula One Championship looks as if it's going to be a very interesting one as the FIA and Liberty Media think they've finally found the balance between ingenuity and on-track action. In the past it's tended to be one or the other because if you allow manufacturers to develop their cars to the best of their ability and to keep finding more and more pace, the cars tend to become harder and harder to actually race with, and on-track action, side-by-side racing and following the car in front of you becomes more and more difficult. We've seen that all the way throughout Formula One history, back as far as the Brabham fan car in 1978 that was banned after its first race, and then also when you had the electronic aids on the Williams back in '93, the active suspension, the traction control, that sort of thing, that was banned very quickly as well because cars simply couldn't pass it, simply couldn't keep up with it. My thought personally, and this is completely a personal opinion, is that Formula One is an engineering sport. It's not really about the battles on track. It's not about the drivers. And there needs to be a certain degree of that, of course, because it is a sport and it's the drivers that the fans look up to. But at the same time, Formula One has to keep in mind that it's an engineering sport and that the cars and ingenuity have to come before all else. If you're not getting things from Formula One into the rest of the world of motorsport or into the real world of production cars, then I'm afraid it's not really doing its job. On the other hand, as I mentioned, Formula One is the sport within racing that everyone looks up to. It's the sport which contains all the heroes, the drivers, Lewis Hamilton, Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, all the way throughout history. And as a result, we do need to see them fighting for positions. And this is very difficult, as I've already said, with the fastest cars. This year, of course, the idea that the FIA and Liberty Media have put in place is to reduce aerodynamic efficiency over the car. They've removed some of the aerodynamic downforce from the front of the car and also from the rear, and it's mainly going to be in the center of the car now, which I think is a good idea, and it does work, as we've seen on IndyCars. The trouble is, we don't want Formula One to become like IndyCar. We don't want it to become completely single make, and that's a long way off. That's a long way off. But if we're putting on-track action above engineering, then I'm afraid that does look likely in the far distant future. For now, though, it's not too bad. I am a little bit miffed that the lap times are expected to drop by 3 or 4 seconds this year. That is disappointing. Well, of course, we don't know how it's actually going to go. It hasn't been tested yet. We haven't raced them. They've done testing, of course, but we haven't raced the cars in this set of regulations yet. So really, there's only one thing to do now, and that's to give it a go. We have to watch the first few races, the first few Grand Prix of 2019. We have to evaluate, was it good racing? Were the cars good? Did the cars look good in qualifying as well? And then we have to decide what we want from the future of our sport from there on.